The Cold Room. In the fall of 1965, before the fog thickened for good and the stories turned sour, there was a quiet stillness to South Vale. The streets were clean. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and fresh pie, and on the corner where Sanders met Martin Street, tucked beside Gonzales Restaurant, sat a butcher shop with red brick walls and a sign that hadn't been replaced in 30 years. JD's Butchery. Family-owned, well-regarded. The kind of place where everyone in town got their Sunday roast, and no one ever asked too many questions about the back room. The shop was run by JD Jr., a tall, pale man with immaculately parted hair and hands that never seemed to get dirty. Folks liked him. He sponsored local baseball teams, made sizable donations to the Balkan Church, and always shook your hand just a little longer than you expected. JD Jr. had a way of being in the room without ever feeling present. But this story isn't about him, not entirely. It's about a boy named Lucas Smith, 13 years old, who took a job at the shop that autumn to help his mother cover rent. Lucas was quiet. He wore his father's too-big coat and never spoke unless spoken to. His job was simple: sweep the sawdust, mop the floors, and stay out of the butcher's way. The men who worked there were older, rough around the edges, and liked to tease the new blood. They called him names like Veal Boy and Rookie Ribeye, but it was all in good humor, or so it seemed. On his third day, Lucas noticed a rope hanging from the ceiling inside the walk-in cooler. It was thick, frayed at the end, and threaded through a small hole in the steel ceiling. He gave it a gentle tug. Somewhere in the distance, a faint bell chimed. One of the butchers, a big man with a gray beard and cigarette breath, looked over his shoulder and smirked. "That's the emergency bell," he said, "for when someone gets stuck in there." Another butcher laughed under his breath. Didn't do much for the intern a few years back. Then the room fell silent. Someone changed the subject, and no one said another word about the rope. That night, Lucas couldn't stop thinking about it. The intern, the bell, what exactly had happened? The following Friday, the shop was quieter than usual. The butchers finished early and left Lucas to close up. JD Jr. wasn't in. He rarely came in on Fridays, and the keys were his for the evening. Lucas moved through his chores as usual, methodical and calm. Around 7 o'clock, he stepped into the walk-in cooler to mop. The air was colder than he remembered, sharp against his face, sinking into his clothes like needles. He turned to grab the mop bucket, and the door clicked shut behind him. He reached for the rope. It was gone. No bell, no handle. No sound but the hum of the fan overhead, and the slow groan of his own breath, fogging the air. At first, he thought it was a prank, the kind of hazing kids talk about in locker rooms. But the minutes stretched too long. His fingers went numb. His knees started to shake. He banged on the door, called out, "Nothing." In his growing panic, Lucas moved deeper into the cooler, searching for anything that might help. He noticed a stack of pork shoulders piled unnaturally high against the back wall. Behind them, something glistened. A patch of wall. Not tile, not steel. Something softer, organic. It pulsed, like something alive. He reached out with trembling hands, then pulled back. Something deep inside him said no. But curiosity, or desperation, overruled it. There was a boning knife on the rack. He took it, raised it, and sliced. The wall split with a sound like wet fabric tearing. A slow, pained moan echoed out from the gash. Inside was a dark, tiled chamber, wet and warm, and lit by a faint red glow. A door stood at the far end, stamped with a symbol he didn't recognize. A circular crest, ancient and unreadable. He stepped through. The air changed immediately. It wasn't cold anymore. It was thick and humid, like breathing through a veil of blood. The walls sweated. The floor throbbed. Lucas wandered, unsure if he was dreaming or dying. He followed a low, rhythmic sound. Ding, ding, ding. A bell, perhaps, but warped, echoing from somewhere deep below. Then he saw it, a room carved from stone and flesh. In the center, a slab, and on it, a child, small, limp, wearing the robes of Hope House. Standing above the child was a figure, a butcher, enormous, and an apron soaked in something too dark to be animal blood. Its arms were corded with muscle, its movements methodical, ritualistic. The cleaver rose. Lucas didn't scream. He couldn't. He turned and ran, back through the tunnel, through the oozing wall, and into the freezer. The rope was there again, hanging like it had never moved. The door opened. 3 butchers stood outside, laughing like nothing had happened. "Guess we forgot to put the rope back, Veal boy," one said, slapping his back. "You didn't get too cold, did you?" Lucas didn't answer. He couldn't. A few days later, JD Jr. asked to see him. His office was spotless. Polished desk, empty walls, no smell of meat. JD studied him for a long time. Then he said, "I heard you handled yourself well in the freezer." Lucas stared. I just went in to clean." JD smiled thinly. "That's what they all say. But not everyone comes back." He opened a drawer and handed Lucas a new set of keys. "Welcome to the back room." They never fired him. They gave him more hours, more trust, a new locker, a fresh apron. He never asked about the intern again. And the freezer? He always made sure the rope was there, just in case.